and we'll talk about that in a second. So this Zoom today is in meeting style, and I guess you're all noticing because you could see each other's faces, and we really wanted to do this so that we could have more of a community feel. I guess through COVID, you know, we have been like this all the time, but we didn't want it to be where you couldn't see who was in the room with everyone. So thank you for coming. So we are also broadcasting live. So if you want privacy, you can control your video and put it off if you wanted. But the Zoom is live, so FYI. There will be one question and answer period at the end of the day. So you could write your questions in the chat box. So we have two wonderful people, Shadia and Rachel, who will be controlling this and synthesizing your questions so that we could pull some really key questions for the communities and for Winona at the end. So again, chi miigwech for sharing with us today. And I'm just gonna start by saying that this event is a partnership between the Indigenous Food Circle and the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, and 14 First Nations in the Robinson Superior and Treaty 9 areas. We've been working on this project collectively for 3 years. So throughout the duration of the project and throughout the duration of the circle, we have been so blessed to work with 4 elders predominantly, and we have 3 of them, I think. I don't know if Marcel Bananish is on here today. We have 2 anyways on with us today, but I'm just going to introduce them really quickly. So we have Gitchi-Gami from KZA or Gull Bay First Nation. Jean, can you give a wave or say a hello? Miigwech. And we have Jerry Martin from Matagami First Nation. Jerry, can you give a wave and say hello? Miigwech. And we also work with, Jerry, did you want to say hi?
Hi, bonjour.
Miigwech. And we also work with Marlene Sun from Alderville First Nation and Marcel Bananish from Long Lake 58 First Nation. And they couldn't be with us or are trying to Zoom in, we don't know yet. So in the beginning here, we always start with a prayer. And so we're looking forward to learning more with these elders and these knowledge keepers. And we've been so blessed to be able to work with them. But for now, we're gonna pass it over to Gitchi-Gami to do an opening.
Miigwech, thank you. Can you hear me? Everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Bonjour, good morning, good afternoon, good noon. My name is Gitchi-Gami. I'm from Gull Bay First Nations, yes. And I'm also, my Anishinaabe name is Little Bear Macons, and I'm a Bear Clan. And I'm a direct descendant of the chief that signed the Robinson Superior Treaty, 1850, Mishemcha, the Great Bear. I'm just a little bear, so I'm here today to do an opening prayer. I'm gonna pray in my language, and I'm gonna pray in the 4 directions, recognizing the 4 colors and the 4 sacred medicines and the 4 sacred directions, and acknowledging the Mother Earth. You know, it's interesting. I was reading a book, a Anishinaabe book, teaching. I think it's written by Mene, was it? Guy in Red Lake. And he says that women were here before men. That's why we recognize Mother Earth, you know, the creation story. And he says that, you know, that in order to sustain, you know, in order to grow, we have to learn all about the Mother Earth, you know, Otherwise, what else would have sustained Anishinaabe people? Anishinabe's story tells us that we came from somewhere, Lord. But I simplify that word for me. Anishinaabe means good people. Anishinaabe, the people that speak Ojibwe. If you want to say a good car, you say Anishinaabanes. Good car. So all humans are good. Everything is good. And so I just want to pray that whatever I say or whatever we hear, it's only my opinion, and with respect, when I pray, asking for guidance and direction, always, Namaha, to me, in a Ojibwe word for Namaha, that's how you say it. But in English language, we say prayer. Two different meaning, eh? Prayer means talking to God. But in my language, prayer means setting our life straight, looking for directions from a higher power. That's what it translates for me. So I always try to keep it simple. I don't try to say that what came first, the chicken or the egg. You debate all day about that. And so I know we're talking about sovereign foods. So, and that's I've shared a few stories, a little bit of history on history of planting and saving food for the winter type of deal, eh? So bear with me. I'm gonna start my prayer now. Gitchi-Gami for listening. Mino, Mishomis, Nukamis. Gitchi-Gami, Wano Kagijigak. Gitchi-Gami, Mogin Matabian, Bigi, Kagigidian. Mushon Sananik, Wokmasnanik, and I thought Mishnah. Would Zaagiigan, would the the man where one Mishnah eating the Kimbo. Shomas, Ashnin, Nigibadis, Magenda with Mishin, okay, Jackinan, okay. When he need not go Megan. Where one dog goes down where Anishawbewi Mikana and the one in Nashab no sec. Wabanon, Shawnong, the Gabinon, Kilednon, where Mama te came to me. Thank you. Yeah, Kintam. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Don't look too holy on me.
Perfect, like always. Okay, so thank you. So before we tell you a little bit more about the project, I wanted to share some of the reasons why we think this project is so successful. First off is because our deep roots and respect and relationships that we hold in our partner First Nations. I want to say Chi-miigwech to all of you. What you've given us over the last 3 years is friendships that are going to be here forever. And I think like that relationship and that trust that we built with each other is part of the reason why this is such a success. The second reason that we think this project is such a success is our team. We've been forming this team over years, and the IFC has had many past and present members. And our current team right now, I just want to introduce them all so you all can see the wonderful people that we're working with. So number one, Shelby Gagnon. Number two, Brad Bannon.
Bonjour, Gakanawa.
Number three, Tyler Wabus. Yeah, we have more people in this room, just like the res. Number four, Rachel Brown. Can you say hi?
Nani?
Ivan Ho.
Bonjour, hi.
Rachel Pertinga.
Hi.
Shadia Aidid.
Hello.
Courtney Strutt.
Bonjour, hello.
And last but not least, Dr. Charles Levko.
Hi, everyone. Bonjour. Glad everyone could be here. Wish we could do it in person, maybe in the future.
So this is our wonderful team, and we've also had other team members that have come and gone, and I want to shout out to someone who's in a community garden right now and couldn't be here, and his name is Beau Boucher from Fort William First Nation, and he really wanted to be here, but had to do some harvesting, I guess, or some planning for next year. So right now I'm going to pass it over to Shelby to share her screen and talk about the project.
Bonjour. It's awesome to see all these awesome and beautiful faces. A little nervous, but you know, my heart's pounding, and that's how it is. You know, you speak even when your voice shakes. We're gonna talk here about understanding our food system project. So I'm gonna go and share my screen.
This one, or no?
And go to presentation. All right, so, whoop, that's the last slide. Okay, whoops, sorry, tech. All right, awesome. So understanding our food system project, as stated before, the project is a collaborative participatory action-based project led by 14 First Nations and supported by the Indigenous Food Circle and Thunder Bay District Health Unit. The project began in November 2017 and has begun developing momentum in each year. Over the past 3 years, we have built deep connections, relationships, listened and learned from our community partners, and supported life-changing projects actionized by employees and community members of our partnering First Nations. It's been an enriching work, and we are excited to share. I just want to state that I've only been a part of this project for a year now, and it really opened up my eyes to food, land, and I'm an artist, so just that whole interconnectedness that we see within ourselves. So we have grown this project to be set in place, and I've really centered the importance of place through its duration. We acknowledge the relationships, especially food relationships, are centered around the lake. Relationships that we and are centered around two integral lakes, Gitchi-Gami, Lake Superior, and Animbiigoo, Zaagiigan, Lake Nipigon. Among other lakes in the Understanding Our Food System projects, project borders and the fish and the animals that reside and need those lakes, relationships with long-standing migrational systems, plant life that was once here, but now is gone, relationships with the people that have been here for thousands of years. We take this approach in community, considering their place and all the living things we mentioned regionally, but at a community level, and provide the support for communities to determine what they need in their specific place. The project developed this map in phase 2 of the project, and we were trying to depict all of the foods and the integral place-based landmarks in Indigenous worldviews for the region we were working with. So looking at the map, these are the 14 First Nations communities that we worked with. Last year we visited almost all of them, but you know, with that, it's all about the communities and relationship building. So these are some of the communities and pictures that we have to share. One main outcome and success story of the Understanding Our Food Systems project are the community food sovereignty visions. We have sat down in each year of the project to plan. We ensure that we allocate at least $6,000 to $2,000 for each community to begin or support their planning or visioning. This has proven to be a source of motivation and empowerment. Supporting a small part of the project financially leads to interest, commitment, and passion. Each community determines what they want to do, and we support the work with 100% in whatever means they need. So today you will be hearing from some of the communities. And on this slide, so right here we have White Sand First Nation. We were just there last week doing a mini gathering harvesting workshop day with them. Roots to Harvest came and answered questions, because even for us, it's like a process of learning. And personally, it's my first year growing, so getting your hands in the dirt and just being together was super amazing. Gitchi-Gami First Nation just below is, they were getting raised beds put into their community with the partnership, again, with Roots to Harvest. Love the guys there. And Rocky Bay, there was a preserving and canning workshop. So, how do we preserve our foods? How can we go from harvesting to putting it and, being able to keep it for a good amount of time? And in Gitchi-Gami First Nation just below, we were looking at the daycare's greenhouse and have hopes for sometime in October to go in and build a greenhouse for their health center, in partnership with other community members around. And it's all about, relationships and just action-based projects. Awesome. So another outcome of this project is that we do not come in and leave nothing. We're always gift giving. In the case that gift giving is always driven from the communities. Over the course of the project, we have collectively developed tools to share with the communities. So one of them is the Urban Access Traditional Food Understanding Wild Game. That was a documentary put into place last October. So if you guys want to check out the website we have, it's Understanding Our Food Systems. The documentary is on our website as well as YouTube and on our Facebook page. Another tool is Ireland. So I'm from Ireland, and this is the Blueberry Initiative that is put into place each year for, driven by youth and community. So kind of putting it out there in a visual aspect and have oral conversations, because that's, who we are. We're more oral and visual people, where we just, kind of, well, for me, I need that. And then the traditional harvesting poster. So we had help from the elders that we were just speaking of, talking about and mapping out what foods we have throughout the year here around the Lake Superior and Lake Nipigon. So it was amazing even just to learn that, and going with the moon, with the stars, and really kind of thinking of it as a circle rather than where you cut the year right in January, where it is like a full circle. Yeah, and this is events. So we have also found throughout the duration of this project that gathering is integral to success in a project and in community. We have hosted 3 large gatherings over the past 3 years that really bring people together. Not only do we bring communities together, but we also bring community partners together, such as Roots to Harvest or the Good Food Box. This has proven to build stronger and more trustworthy relationships in the region. And among organizations, they may have not had a regional reach to more rural communities and areas. These events are not only focused around relationships, but are focused on learning, sharing, and teaching. We plan to meet we had plans to meet this year in one of our partnering communities, but COVID-19 hit, so we shifted our plan and rejigged our gathering from an in-person in community one to an online event, which is this event, and 7 land-based events in different communities. So one of them was the White Sand that we went to last week. And we're also going to be filming and sharing our community with our community partners that are based in a workshop format for the communities to use once it's able to be watched. And we're going to be sharing that as well on our Facebook page and website as well. So if you guys want to take a look at that, we did a couple workshops so far, and we have some planned for October as well. So these photos are from the Wild Game event back in October. So the first one is there's a moose nose, and traditional wild game. So we spent the weekend together talking about accessing wild game in urban settings, had, workshops of cooking. And so we Tyler and Brad actually were in the kitchen most of those days during that weekend, and Rachel Golbinski. So they made moose nose, they made moose tenderloin, beaver, partridge, geese, wild rice, squash, beans, corn, and a wild blueberry dessert, which was just delicious. Yeah. So in summary, this project today has been a process of reclamation, empowering, and has been groundbreaking. We did not plan for some of the outcomes, but they evolved naturally, and all of them are leading and building towards individual community food sovereignty, reclamation, and contributing to regional and beyond to Indigenous resurgence. For myself, I think spending time on this project has made me just have this deep connection, to the land, but also finding my identity as an Indigenous woman here in Thunder Bay. And just, listening and observing to that land is so beautiful. And when you take the time to just, be with the land, put your hands in the land and, growing, you have that love and care towards something, and then it returns back to you. And, it's a beautiful thing. We are in for the slow game. Colonialism secretly built that resilience within us. This is only the beginning of where we as Indigenous people are going with ourselves, with our community, and I think with this land. Miigwech. Wait, how do I stop sharing?
That your red button.
Miigwech, Howell. So thank you. So that is the project in a nutshell. I guess I'll just add is that similar to Shelby, and in addition to everything she said about that connection with her and what it's given us as Indigenous people, I also think I sit here today with 3 of my Indigenous colleagues, and the relationships I've formed with these people and the rest of my team is second to none. And that's the work, really, is building relationship and getting to know each other, being able to work in a team to help people and help communities do what they want to do. So thank you again to the health unit and everyone. So as you heard Shelby say, the majority of this work is led by communities. We take direction from them for the overarching project, as well as ultimately what they want to do in their communities. They are actioning everything and they are dreaming everything. We just provide the networks, the support, and the facilitation around some of those things that they're driving in their communities. We have long and hard advocated for there to always be a small amount of money that goes to the communities, as we call it in our project, direct community support. This small amount of money is up from $2,000 to $5,000. I think the most we gave in our second year was $7,000 at some point. This money has been the seed money to start projects, give empowerment, build momentum in the communities. So for example, and you'll hear some of those stories in a minute, but in some of the communities, one little purchase led to this larger project. And we're so used to these large funding grants where these small little pockets of money have the means to change the world. So today we asked 3 of our partner communities to share their stories with you. Each of them are doing very different but miraculous things on the community level. Determining their own food systems. I have come to love these places and projects, but most importantly, the people. You have all enriched my life. Miigwech to all you. So thank you for sharing today. So I'm gonna first just introduce the first community, which is Red Rock Indian Band. I'll just do a little thing. Red Rock Indian Band is located in the Lake Helen Reserve, number 53A, approximately 1/4 kilometers from the highway junction 1117, 100 kilometers east of Thunder Bay. It consists of 2 sections, Paramachi Reserve 53 and Lake Helen Reserve 53A. The total area covered by these 2 reserves is approximately 950 acres. Historically, the people lived in different locations in and around Lake Nipigon, such as Jackfish Island, Gull Bay, and McIntyre Bay. Red Rock Indian Band became an Indian reserve under the Indian Act in 1914. They have a registered membership of 1,823 people, with 323 of those people living on the reserve. So I'm going to introduce the women from Red Rock Indian Band. Please share your story, and Miigwech.
Hi, my name is Joanna DeChico. I'm the employment counselor here at Red Rock Indian Band. I began working with them. What's your position?
Community health rep.
And we have a counselor here, Norma Lesperance. Hello. So yeah, I'll just bring up the slide.
See, we're shy here.
Mhm. These two are shy, so I have to do all the talking. So this is our logo. I'm not sure how long ago that was designed.
Hey, Joe.
New community garden that we office used to be. And then a new band office was built, and we brought the garden over to the new band office site. So what you're looking at here is like it was just like a regular grass. So we cleared it, we dug it up for the garden, we put material there. We utilized volunteers. We also utilized our Ontario Works clients. And our summer students. And if you see in the neck, a little bit of raised beds that we did. Our summer students actually painted our garden shed. Here's some of the produce that we harvested from that year. A lot of it was given to the elders in the community, and some of it was donated to our fall harvest. We grew some beets that year too, and we ended up pickling them and gave them out and donated them as well. We grew some beans there. This apple tree was planted over in the old site, and we rescued it and brought it over, and it produced all those apples that very year. And that year, the present chief was going on a different path, so we had a staff luncheon, and we took the apples and made a candy apple, and we had them for that lunch. Caramel. Yeah. Food boxes, it's through the Indigenous Food Circle in Thunder Bay. We pack up these boxes and we distribute them to approximately 106 houses in community. There's some of the goodies inside.
Hi, Joanna. Are you? Can you hear us? Oh, I think she got cut off. Okay.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. We think we've got an internet issue where Joanna is presenting from, and so the internet might have just been a little overloaded with the slides. So we're going to try to see if we can connect back with her. Jess, do you think it would be, oh, there we are.
Okay, we've got to try that again.
No worries. And it might be, well, we'll see. Go ahead and try again. Sometimes it's easier if you call in. And so then you can use your audio through your phone, and then your internet is only being asked to share slides. So we can also use that if needed.
Okay. What slide did you guys last see?
Excellent
Nicholas,
question.
the apples?
Yes, that's what I.
Or the one right after it?
Oh, the apples? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the food, the good food box that we get every month. So monthly, we get them, we get staff members to pack up, and we deliver them to approximately 106 houses and community. So this, the good food boxes are through the Indigenous Food Circle and Thunder Bay Good Food Box program. We also did a pumpkin and sunflower seed contest this summer. The seeds were donated to us through the Understanding Our Food System, and they were bought from a local business in Thunder Bay. Excuse me. So here's some of them. We had about 17 participants. This lady had the heaviest pumpkin at 12 pounds, 2 ounces. This was the winner of the biggest face of the sunflower. And that one was the largest. So now we're getting into a project that we're working on. We were invited to Thunder Bay by Jessica, and for food sovereignty, food security. And so we were given some money to create a project. So we decided that our community needed a moose hanger, because during our fall harvest that there wasn't enough hangers to hang all the moose. So we decided that we would go with that for our short-term goal. For our medium goal, we decided we wanted to do a butcher shop so we could process meat within the community and do it ourselves. And for future, we are looking at a tannery, but we'll go through the slides here. So that is the erected moose hanger. It actually could hold 4 moose at one time. So once that was complete, we started moving on to the butcher shop. So we started prepping the ground for it and pouring the cement slabs. We started getting the material for the butcher shop here. And we couldn't have done it without the funding from Canadian Feed the Children. And for the equipment inside, like the coolers and fridges and counters and all that stuff, we actually utilized the local, or the local infrastructure fund. We were successful in gaining that grant. Yeah, we're hoping to have it, the complete build of the butcher shop, the end of late this fall, yeah. So it's right beside the hangar, as you can see. Yeah, so we, because it's the moose hanger, butcher shop, and the future tannery, we wanted to actually name the whole space. And so we held a contest for people in the community to vote. And the name that they chose was At the Gathering Place. So that's going to be the name for the whole area there. And this place is actually located at the Chalet Lodge. And it looks Lake Helen, which is this picture here. And this is more of the space of the area where that food system is going to be. And yeah, we just want to, we chose to do that so we could in the community. As you know, due to colonization, we're forced to eat mainstream food, which isn't always healthy for us. So this is a way to get back to our traditional food. And we could do teachings down there. We could integrate like school classes to do workshops and stuff. So that's what we're up to.
Chimigwich, Joanna, and girls in the background. Thank you. So as you see, these are the types of projects that communities are doing. And this is just not like this plain Jane project. This is something crazy that really is going to support their community in so many different ways. And Red Rock, what I've seen is like when one thing starts, other things are happening. So like they have plans for wild rice processing and other plans that all tie into their project. So miigwech girls, and thank you for your work. Next, I want to introduce Brian Petrie from Big Winiyashi, Anishawbewi, which is Sandpoint First Nation, which is also on the shores of Lake Nipigon. So a big BNA, includes 984 hectares in what was the former Black Sands Lake Nipigon Provincial Park. BNA is located on the eastern shore of Pitawabik Bay, which is on the southeastern shores of Lake Nipigon, 50 kilometers north of Highway 1117. BNA's land was returned to them on April 2010 following years of displacement caused by the provincial and federal governments. The community and its leadership are now forging ahead with major economic development initiatives and reestablishing community for the eventual return of its memberships to its homelands. Chimijik, Brian, for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Yeah, as Jessica was saying, the history of BNA is one of displacement and then rebuilding. I'm BNA's Infrastructure Development Coordinator. Some of the projects we've gone forward include building permanent housing, which we now have members living in at the land full time, upgrading our roads, upgrading our sawmill to provide economic opportunities, opening our pit, bringing in power, and along with that, bringing in food opportunities. So I wasn't, we weren't with Jessica's group on the first year, but the second year of the program, we were lucky enough to get a dehydrator and freezer to help us do food preservation. And I'm just gonna present something. So the next step after that was to do a greenhouse. And so we got funding through the local food infrastructure fund. We use that to do a greenhouse, which is currently under construction. So I apologize, I can't show an amazing slideshow like Red Rock Indian Band, who did a great job, but this is what it's going to look like, and it'll be in place before the winter for use next year. And some details on this is it's going to have, they'll have an 8 by 20 insulated storage. It's a repurposed shipping container. It's going to have solar panels for power. There'll be a covered greenhouse area. There'll also be exterior raised garden beds. There'll be a cooling system, water storage, an indoor growing space, and we're going to be using raised garden beds. So that's good for anyone to use, say if they're an elder or a community member that would find it difficult to get right down the ground for gardening. And then we're going to have lighting. So that's a little bit about the current project of what we're doing right now, and then we're going to use this kind of synergistically with the support from Jessica's group again to kind of help fund things for the project in terms of equipment for food preservation and different things in the space. We were looking to partner with Roots to Harvest and Jessica's group once it gets built for onboarding for community members in terms of how to grow food, what to grow, how to care for it, how to preserve it, and how to store it for the long term, with a greater vision of providing access for local culture appropriate food at the land for members who are living down there and are kind of reclaiming their community. And so it's very important for in terms of community sovereignty. And so that's the current project. We're also looking at the next round of the Local Food Infrastructure Fund. There's another funding pot out there, which we've applied. So we were looking at potentially doing a rooftop garden here in Thunder Bay to make better use of the space within Thunder Bay for the community members who do live in Thunder Bay, and providing them space to healthy, accessible food as well. Yeah, that's the major projects going to BNA. A lot of community development from scratch, but we're looking to try to stack these programs and projects to get them to work in a great way for the community in the long run, and to provide food sovereignty and allow the community to make their own choices. That's about it. Thank you everyone for listening.
Miigwech, Brian. I know you guys have other stuff too going on around land-based stuff through Jordan. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for sharing all that. And like, I think eventually you guys are planning to connect all those dots down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Like we're looking to connect it with a store and freezer space so people can put their fall harvest there, or their fish or their moose. There was something that just came through from the Kiwin for, it was a freezer, a smoker, backup generator, just for some more traditional food storage. And we want to really put it all together synergistically to get the best effect for the community out of it.
Amazing. Miigwech, Brian.
Thank you, Jessica. It was great as always.
Great. So we have one more community to present. So this community is close to my heart. And I've had the privilege and we have had the privilege of going there quite a bit. So Gitchi-Gami, or Pick River First Nation, is located off Highway 1117, approximately 352 kilometers east of Thunder Bay. It's accessible by Highway 627, adjacent to Pakwasa National Park, with reserve land totaling 332.7 hectares in size. The traditional territory encompasses over 2 million hectares, combined with exclusive and shared territory on the north side of Lake Superior. Pick River First Nation has asserted Aboriginal title and has filled the comprehensive land claim in the Ontario Supreme Court for Aboriginal title over its traditional territory. Gitchi-Gami is a vibrant and growing community and has an increasing population. Currently, there are 1,200 registered members, with 500 of those members living on reserve. I will say, Pick River's close to my heart. Another reason is my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather met at the trading post there, and they traveled by dog sled from Long Lake. So it's a very special place. So I want to pass it over to some 3 amazing women in Gitchi-Gami, Sharon Desmolin, Lisa Michon, and Tammy Shaw, to talk about their work.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name's Sharon Desmolin. I work as the Food Sovereignty Project Coordinator, and I'm also the Health and Wellness Transportation Driver. So we're just going to jump into the screens.
So flash your screen. Click on your name. Just double check this to make sure they see it. It's probably doing that now because it's sharing so much.
Okay. And then Where do we go next?
From beginning.
We can see your, sorry, we can see your continuum slide very well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as Indigenous inspired way of assessing our community's readiness for education, action towards food security, food sovereignty, a visual representation of where we come from and what direction we want to go. The idea is that our community would have identified where they saw themselves in a way that is visual and non-threatening, that would give us an idea to where to start wherever initiatives we're going to undertake. So we were working on this and then COVID hit. So it's kind of stopped right now. We are going to pick up. It's basically, we want the community to let us know where they are at with food security and food insecurity. So this is what we have so far. We are working on it, and yeah. So then we have Meals on Wheels and a transportation program here. The Meals on Wheels started approximately 2 years ago. Everything is made at the hospital. I go pick it up once a week. I deliver to members that have dietary needs such as diabetes. They're all flash frozen. Meals are good for about 3 months in the freezer. They're microwavable, so it's pretty easy for them. Right now we're storing the Meals on Wheels in the freezer and the fridge that we got off of funding from Jessica. And then our transportation program is for eligible community members that don't own a vehicle, and we take them to Marathon and go grocery shopping. So I'm going to pass it over to Tammy.
Okay, bonjour. My name is Tammy Shawn. I'm the diabetes coordinator here at the health center. So I'm going to be talking about some of the programs that I run within the health center. So one of the first ones I'm going to be talking about is our healthy food bag program. Do you just press the arrow or just click on this slide? Okay. So our healthy food bag program started, our very first bag went out to the community on January 2012. And actually approximately 50 bags were purchased. The program, we went to a workshop, I think maybe about 6 months prior to that. And then that's when we first heard about other communities doing good food bags. So then a chance or an offer came for funding for food security through ADI. And then that's how we started getting the funding for the good food bag. So initially, the good food bag was $10 a bag. And then so the community members pay by the first Friday, and then the bags are ready for pickup on the third Thursday of each month. All the bags consist of the same items, and I think roughly around 7 to 8 items per bag. And then as of February 29th, 2016, we changed because we called the name, or we called the program Good Food Bag, but we actually changed the name to Minomija Mishkamod, which is healthy good food bag. And we also had to increase the price of the bag to $15 due to the cost of food because, well, we had some subsidy, but then it was kind of hard to get a really good bag for the community members with only $10. And then ever since then too, also departments are starting to purchase bags for their clients for $30.
Sorry to interrupt, but you gotta, like, this is the screen, you need the whole thing now.
Oh, I gotta go
from current slide.
From current slide?
Yeah.
Okay. We're all new to this. Okay, so this is a picture of our very first good food bag distribution. So you can see down the front, and actually we partnered with DH Foods at the time, the grocery store, and we were able to get people to sign up, and then we were able to do an order for the food. So there was enough food for all the bags. And then here's some other pictures of foods, just some examples. And then so when it comes closer to like Thanksgiving and Christmas, we also add in some like breadcrumbs, cranberry sauce. And then there's, in the winter months, we'll add like some beans and some oatmeal. And so we do a variety of foods. And then after a while too, we also sent out a survey to the community because we noticed, I guess, well, maybe not complaints, but some complaints, but some people didn't like the repetitive of some foods. So we did the survey, and then now we know like what foods to kind of do every second month or third month to kind of gear towards the community. And then also if we're introducing a new food, we'll also add in a recipe for the item. Okay, so here is another program that I do. It's called our Food Bingo. Our first Food Bingo ran December 6, 2012. And what it is, it's, we usually run it around Christmas time. And so what we do is people were paying $10 to come in and they would get like bingo cards. And so for the prizes for each game were like a meal in the bag. And then for the specials, it would be more of like a meal in the bag with added like salad or bread. And then the jackpot was a food hamper with gift certificates valuing at $500. And then so within that bingo, we did have some early birds, and we also donated some of the proceeds to the Christmas food drive here in Gitchi-Gami, and the rest went back into programming. And then actually our last food bingo last year was free of charge, as it was sponsored by Canadian Feed the Children. Okay. So we do have community kitchens. We have been trying to do it like once a month. So here's some pictures where we did pierogies. We did some keto tacos, which was one of the highest attended community kitchens. And then on the right side there, that's some of the key members doing pierogies. But in the past, we've also did like meat pies, blueberry jam. Yeah, so we do a variety of things. And then here we have our community garden. If you look on the left, that was our very first year, I believe our very first year of doing a community garden. And that was the summer of 2012. And I have to say that like me and Shelly, we've never really gardened before, but that year, like our beets were like huge. We don't have much pictures, but they were huge. And I think that has to be one of the best spots that we've ever held a community garden. And then 2 years after that, we moved it. So that picture there, that's in 2014. And yeah, in that area though, it was harder to grow. We get sprouts, but then it wasn't going much further than that. So it was still a lot of, I guess, figuring things out. Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna be, did you want to do the moose camp or you want me to?
I'll go into that because it's tied to the curriculum.
Okay.
Bonjour, Zaagiigan Kwe Indigenous Cause, Makodo Dam. I am Lisa Machano-Crochet. I'm the Director of Education in the community. And I'm going to be speaking specifically about some of the initiatives that involve kids in the community. We've tried to work with health overall as an education department, and really trying to build community partnerships around not only gatherings and traditional practices, but also we know that it plays a big part in food and health and that stuff related. So just to kind of set the tone of where we're coming from in terms of education, we do have our own curriculum. We follow some of the provincial curriculum, but for the most part, when it comes to the social sciences and the sciences, we have our own. We have our own school from K to 8. We have our own learning center for preschool, toddler, and infants, and we determine what we will teach as curriculum. So a number of years ago, we went to the community and asked them, what is it that you want your children to learn as Anishawbewi? And some of the answers we took, and we adjusted the curriculum. So this is, some of these pictures are part of an annual moose camp. This started back in 2008 by taking the children out. It is part of our curriculum. They do it yearly, and it's grown over the years. There's times where there's 250 people. The children are taken out of school. That is their school for the week, and they are engaged in hunting, harvesting, and a number of activities around camp. A big part is, you know, obviously food, how to process the meat, how to do some of the drying of the meat, but also it's about relationship building and visiting with those elders and valuing the food that comes from the land. Trying to empower families. The school shuts down, and it's encouraged that families go out for the week, not just about, well, send your children and we'll teach them. It really is about that. The administration of it's a big task, and there's a lot of moving parts, and it wasn't always that big, but as it's grown, so it's become a community-wide time and event, and it takes a lot of members to make it successful. We haven't had one camp since 2008 where we haven't had moose. At the end of the camp, all the meat is distributed to elders and to families so that they have some for their winter stock. Usually happens in the full moon in September, and it is also a social gathering, intergenerational transmission of traditional knowledge and ceremonies. And this also helps us to continue asserting our rights and food sovereignty within our ancestral lands. Some of the activities we've had in the past: canoeing, snaring, trapping. Some of the evening activities included birch bark basket making, beading, language sharing, storytelling, games, painting. Again, we had canning of the meat, tanning of the hide, and the teachings that go along with that. Other animals that we've brought in over the years include beaver, fish, goose, deer, rabbits, ducks too. This was one of the first camps with some of the families and people. It doesn't look like that now. I should have included a picture of the multiple trailers and prospector tents that you would now see, other than this year because of COVID, but any given year out there, many people. That's just, we do a lot of the on-site processing, cutting, the demonstrations. We haul a lot of stuff out to our area. If one year we did do some smoking, we use a lot of the elders to help us guide parents, families, kids in processing the meat. That's just a picture of some of the kids showing being shown how to skin it. And in the springtime, with us being on the shore of Lake Superior, a lot of rainbow fish are harvested. So again, we pull that's the kids' school for the week. They're engaged in, our fishermen go out and set nets, and the nets are pulled, and every day there's activities around the fishing harvest. Species identification, they weigh them, they list their species of what's found in the net, they clean the nets, they clean the fish, they practice making nets. Yeah, it's a really, the timing of it is really, it's that time of year where everything is warming up a bit and melting, and playing in the puddles is just such an exciting time, as well as everybody's been cooped up in the winter, and fresh fish is a very tasty meal. And so we get a lot of community members that come out, and they sometimes just sit and they're with each other, and then they get involved in the process. A lot of these activities are dependent on parents and knowledge keepers to come in and to be part of it. It is the philosophy and worldview that you know what, the teachers in the classroom aren't the experts. We rely a lot on community members and those connections with our parents and with our elders to come and show us. And as teachers, they're facilitating the learning and helping with the organizing. Another initiative we've had, our kids, our 7 and 8 group every year, they have a micro hatchery in the school and they fertilize eggs. We started off with brook trout eggs. We grow them and we then release them into the lakes in our traditional territory. And from there, you know, it's hoped that we have a food source. That initiative just started about a couple of years ago. This is the first spring we tried pickerel or walleye. We were successful in that. I probably about 10,000 eggs. They're not huge, not huge hatcheries, but we did release, and that's a whole process and a whole example of us trying to do our part.
Oh, I forgot all about the COVID. So with COVID-19, the community went into lockdown on March 2020. And then so with that, the community was sectioned off into zones. And then so with those zones, people shopped on their own zone days, which was 1 day a week. And then so with that, Siraj, which is our local grocer in Marathon, they had a grocery delivery service that was delivered on those selected zone dates. And then so also throughout COVID, we had 2 good food box deliveries. They were for our vulnerable population in the community, and it was a subsidized program offered by the Indigenous Food Circle. And then the school also had a fruit and veggie program that was previously implemented, and the distribution was intended for households with children, but there was a lot of produce, so it went to each household each week. And I think that's everything for Gitchi-Gami.
How do I get out of this? Chi-miigwech, ladies. As you guys see, like, food touches so many places in the community, and Gitchi-Gami, you did a great job of like really depicting that, and like through education, through health, through the daycare, and every time we're in Gitchi-Gami, we see something new and something new pop up around food, and we're so excited to work with you into the future. So Chi-miigwech for sharing. So right now, everyone, we're at 2:07. We're about 5 minutes early. We're going to give everyone a 15-minute break, and I'm going to say 15 minutes, but if you need to come back sooner, come back. We'll be online, and just grab a coffee, bathroom, whatever. And we'll be back to hear from Winona Leduc. Communities just did presentations, and I just wanted to say thanks again for sharing the work you guys are doing in the community. That's what is like the goal of all this, right, is your work. I did want to say that I'm not money bags over here, and I don't have the money. When everyone's like, we got money from Jess, it's actually a partnership with the Health Unit and the Ontario Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. So that's where that funding comes from. It's not from my pocket, because that's not possible. So anyways, but the money, we did want to drive home the point that those small pockets of money that are offered through this program really help empower and move projects along. So with that, we're going to come back, and I just want to say we have a guest speaker today. So Chi-miigwech for being with us, Winona. I'll just do a little introduction. So Winona Leduc is a rural development economist working on issues of economic, food, and energy sovereignty. She lives and works on the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota and leads several organizations, including Honor the Earth, Anishinaabe Agriculture Institute, King, and Winona's Hemp. These organizations develop and model cultural-based sustainable development strategies, utilizing renewable energy and sustainable food systems. She is an international thought leader in the areas of climate justice, renewable energy, and environmental justice. She is also a leader in the work of protecting Indigenous plants and heritage foods from patenting and genetic engineering. She has authored 6 books, including Recovering the Sacred, All of Our Relations, Last Standing Woman, and her newest work, The Winona Leduc Chronicles. Chimigwich Renona.
Anine, hello, my relatives. Very nice to see you up to the north, Kiwetanong. I'm over here at the hemp farm. And we also quarantined during COVID times. We've been quarantined on the farm with probably about 8 kids off and on, sometimes 10. And so it's been really good for all of us, actually. In these scary times, it was an interesting moment. I used to travel. I used to fly. That's how I talk about things. I used to fly. I had this superpower. I haven't flown for months. And we had to get really local. And you had to really see what was going on. And so when the COVID hit, we went to the sugar bush. Seemed like the best thing to do. Get out of town, head for the woods, and so I've been doing this for, just reintegrating myself into my lifestyle that the Creator gave me. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and our work on the farm, which is really food sovereignty work, because every community kind of faces the same thing, and kind of as I start, I think about how to share my screen. This is my next plan. Ooh, where is the screen? Hold on a second, my friends, I didn't know all of that was on my screen. How do I get the one thing? It's this one here. Oh, I have all kind of PowerPoints apparently on my screen. Hold me a minute here, and I will close 5 of them down. But I wanted to start talking about the idea of a food desert. And I don't know if you've talked about that at all, but I think it's really interesting because we talk about how northern stores or these different places you can't really get any food here, right? And but I think that what Anishinaabe people know is that you go in the woods to get the food, go to the lake and get the food. The store is there, and that's where you got to go, and we got to be those people that, like our ancestors who went out there and got back, because that's what food sovereignty is about, and that's that's a return to our original instructions in the time that we're in, and we want to do that. So now I'm going to try one more time here to get my really cool darn PowerPoint going. Can you see that? Yes, no?
No, not yet.
We're getting closer. I'm thinking about it. It's thinking about it now. It says share. Oh, where's my share screen thing?
It's at the very bottom of the Zoom.
Yeah, I got that. And I closed all of these other things, but I can't seem to. Just a second here. It's this one here. Is that on now?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, the technology, it's super interesting learning how to use all this technology. So this is some art from you guys, basically. I think that, you've seen this piece. This is about this time that we're in. It's called We're All in the Same Boat. And pretty much we are, and as we go back into our communities, it's an interesting moment. I think about what Arundhati Roy has said. She's a writer from India. And she said, history has proven that pandemics are portals. Pandemics change the world that we live in. And as we approach this portal, the fact is that the past 6 months, we have done things that we never imagined we would do. We have, quit flying around. We have seen systems close down. We have seen the entire industrial infrastructure crumble, food systems as a perfect example. We have seen governments, to their knees. And, us Anishinaabe people, we have a lot of stories about epic times. We have a lot of stories about epic times. And, some of those stories talk about those times from long ago. They talk about when Minwainja, like for instance, little animals that we never thought were important. Like the bat. We even have stories about the bat old time, about how we were, a long time ago, the sun was entangled and a bat. It wasn't yet a bat. came and saved it and then got all burned and got all crispy and couldn't see, but was given these gifts by the Creator so that that bat could continue. And I think about that because in some ways, maybe we would refer to this as the time of the bat, because the coronavirus came from a bat originally. And, you know, so I think about that because coronavirus came because industrial world, Windigo economics keeps encroaching upon the natural world where the wild things are. And where we live in our territories is where those things remain. About 75% of the world's biodiversity is in our territories. And, you know, in those territories is where that biodiversity is and where those wild things are. 75% of the world's biodiversity is in the territories of Indigenous people, who are about 4% of the world's population. And so protecting where the wild things are is important. When you encroach on it, things don't go well. You know, I think that a lot of Native people for a long time, like century or so, have been saying you know, saying, be a good idea not to pick a fight with Mother Nature, you know, but that's what they did. That's what they did. And so now we see this world that we live in, and I think of this as the time of the bat, where the bat has brought the Windigo economy to its knees. You know, the world is changing, and as Anishinaabe people, you know, we have all kind of things that have happened to us, but we also have this opportunity. Crisis is opportunity, and in this pandemic, in that portal, you know, as Arundhati Roy says, we can drag through that portal all the avarice, our dirty skies, our filthy rivers, our hatred, colonialism. We can drag that through, or we can just drop it and walk through clean. And in our prophecies, we talk about this as the time of the seventh fire, where we have a choice between two paths. One is well-worn but scorched. The other is not well-worn and it is green. Our choice upon which path to embark. Surely, in this moment, it is the time to know which path we are on, and to see this opportunity in this moment to change our world. And so, as I said, you know, I began changing my world, as did everybody else. But instead of despairing at what I lost, I was grateful for what I regained, which is this relationship to our land and relationship to our food. So I want to talk a little bit about that, you know, because I've been farming for about 30 years. I started farming, I'm 61, so about you know, 30 years ago. I wonder how come this won't change. Here we go. And I grow corn. This is a, you know, a variety of corn. I show some pictures of our corn later, but you know, my father came to see me when I was at Harvard University. I was an undergraduate, and he said, I want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. And so I've been growing corn for about 30 years. And in a time of climate change, what you want to be growing is these old seeds. Because these old varieties, for instance, corn, Indigenous people, 8,000 varieties of corn. Some of those corn varieties went way into northern Manitoba. And so what we know is that some of these varieties are resilient, and they can adapt, and corn is a smart plant. And I think about that because as we see the industrial food system collapsing, you know, which is what it is doing, as they, you know, pour off millions of gallons or liters, if you're in Canada, of milk, and destroy all these eggs. You know, what we also know is that we got to plant our gardens. And so we came home and we planted our gardens. And in those, I have seen corn adapt, smart corn, to different conditions of climate change. And so, you know, we have all of the tools we need to have to take care of our future generations. And we just need to take care of those things, those gifts that the Creator gave us. So I like to talk about when America was great. This is when America was great, is when there's 8,000 varieties of corn. America was great when there were 50 million buffalo. That's when America was great. And those buffalo went all the way, you know, up into Canada to wood bison, you know, and we all know that the loss of that buffalo, the loss of those herds was devastating. It was, you know, we are post-apocalyptic people. We are post-apocalyptic people, and a lot of that apocalypse was really exemplified by the destruction of our buffalo relative, you know. And so we have clearly become people who are dependent. Colonization has exacted a great price from our people and from our nations. There's no question about that. And in that, we have lost our ability to feed ourselves, which is what we must return to. And that's this moment, this ability to take back our power, take back our power in this time of this COVID pandemic, because it shook us up. Everything that we were used to, we no longer have secure access to. And so, you know, in my community, we did this little study a few years ago on the food economy. And we found that, you know, money comes in from jobs, from, you know, income security comes into my community, and almost all that money goes out real quick for food, real quick for energy, you know. And so I point this out because off the reservation or reserve, you know, 86% of our money is spent buying food and bringing it in. And what we want to do, what we really want to do is not be, because it's a total waste of energy and it's totally food insecurity in the time that we are in. And so I think about this, and I think about, I'm gonna change my screen a little bit so I got my cool guy behind me. Oh yeah. We think about that in our reservation, we saw 86% and only 14% stayed on reservation of our food. And the 14% that stayed on was largely, you know, food that was sold at convenience stores. And those convenience stores don't have good food, and everybody knows this problem of the pop and chips. And so there's a lot of things that, you know, we know. And so the opportunity we have now, because the food systems are not working out in industrial society, is to restore our traditional food systems. So this is a little bit about that work. Now, a lot of you know, I don't know if you know this, but I've been working on squash too for a long time. This is this squash known as Gitchi-Gami. This we grew a few years ago in our garden, and I had a good year of these squash this year, but a better year this year of Lakota squash. And the reason that you want to, you know, grow these, and I know that people are in a different growing season or a different growing district up there in the North Country, but, you know, now would be the time to start building some underground greenhouses. Now would be the time to start building food systems that you can grow these things in, because, you know, we may not have a lot of warm, but we got long days, and these things will grow. These varieties were developed specifically for our neck of the woods, for our territory, by our ancestors. This squash here, I was given my squash seeds here in about 2010, scared to grow them because was really stressed out, and then I started growing them, and man, these squash seeds are everywhere. These are called Gitchi-Gami. For Anishawbewi speakers, that means something like really cool old squash, really cool old squash. And we've been growing those, and we cut one of those squash open one day, and we found 1,600 seeds in it, 1,600 seeds. And I think about that because, to me, seeds are about possibilities. Seeds are about opportunities. Seeds are about, you know, hope and commitment. And you know, to me, planting and farming is a part of that. Now, this is where we've been doing most of our work here at, we're known as Hemp and Heritage Farm, which is, you know, I've been focusing on traditional varieties of corn, beans, squash, potatoes. Oh, I forgot to show my really cool potato pictures, but I got a lot of cool potatoes. And Jerusalem artichokes, and tobacco, and hemp. And I'll talk a little bit about hemp, you know, as well. But the reason I'm interested in these is I'm interested in the adaptation of traditional varieties in a time of climate change, because that'd be a good idea. And most of these varieties, like that squash, they have much higher much higher in amino acids and protein levels than the conventional industrial variety plants. You know, these plants, these relatives with roots are strong. They have ability to adapt to these times that we are in. And you know, so I'm always grateful for these relatives and how they are able to adapt. And you know, so that we've been focusing on those traditional varieties and their restoration. And then in addition to that, we've focused on hemp. And here's just a little picture of hemp, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Where outside, I just left my team. They're cleaning this hemp crop, and we're getting more hemp in. And so, to be clear, I know that cannabis is legal in Canada, you know, and I'm a proponent of legalization across the board of cannabis, but I'm really interested in this fiber hemp varieties because the seeds of that are really high in amino acids and a lot of nutritional value. You know, good seeds. The oil could be used for, you know, anything, including fueling a car. You can do pretty much anything out of hemp that you could do out of oil. And then the fiber itself is what we're going to make our our clothing out of, because we used to have 11 hemp mills in Minnesota, and the word, I always like to say this, the word canvas comes from cannabis. Don't you think that's interesting? Are any of you out there? Okay. Anyway, okay, good. The word canvas comes from cannabis. I thought that was interesting, which shows like immense possibilities. So what if we could, like, all those tarps that we're throwing over all our fishing gear, all plastic? What if we got rid of that plastic and went back to cannabis and grew all of that? So I'm a supporter of hemp, cannabis, you know, cannabis everywhere. They say that about 100 years ago, we had a choice in North America between a carbohydrate economy and a hydrocarbon economy. You hear that? Carbohydrate economy versus a hydrocarbon economy. And we made the wrong choice. We ended up with a hydrocarbons. The words are so close together, but the hydrocarbon economy is what we ended up with in the tar sands, and the carbohydrate economy was hemp, because we could do anything with it. And so I'm for the new green revolution. Canada's got to be part of it. Ojibwe's got to be part of it, and that's what we're working on here. Now, this is what we did. First, we went into the sugar bush. That was awesome. I don't have no sugar bush pictures, but I think you guys, did you guys show some sugar bush pictures earlier? Probably. You know, we have quite a bit of sugar bush here, and we went in there, we got a bunch of that. And then I moved into farming with kits. And so this is me. I'm basically quarantined with a bunch of youth. And we farm with horses because I'm interested in post-petroleum economics. And now, you know, I have these ponies that are called Lac LaCroix ponies. I know they come from up there, the Lac LaCroix ponies. Now, someone gave me a couple of Lac LaCroix ponies. They just dropped them off, and they used to be mining ponies. I guess that they were used, you know, when they were mining with ponies up in the north. And then they kind of went feral. I got a couple that were super feral, and now they're farming ponies. And I just want to point out, you don't have to have big fancy horses, but I'll tell you what, horsepower is power in the farm and in the operations. And I'm interested in post-petroleum farming operations. And so this is like the coolest picture I have, or one of them, of the ponies putting in a cornfield. That's what we're doing. And so I got a bunch of youth and a bunch of women, particularly in this farming operation. That's Karen Knowles there. She is so gifted with horses. She's like a little Dr. Doolittle on that. And then this is some of what we got. Now, I don't want to, you know, we're just starting. This is the beans. This is Migizi Desjardins from Red Lake, and he's got some beans that he harvested. That center picture is Lakota squash. We got 69 Lakota squash out of our gardens. And then this one on the right is the great pumpkin. And I just want to point out that people will tell you all kind of things about how to grow what. Persistence, hoeing, got to keep hoeing, you know, and weeding. And then the other thing is just like a lot of fertilizer. And this is all horse manure. People said I couldn't grow a garden with horse manure. Well, let me just tell you that we grew all this with horse manure. And so don't listen to all those people. Just take your own power and start farming yourself. That's my, you know, my suggestion. Give yourself permission to farm. Give yourself permission to grow your own food, because nobody's gonna be growing it for you, and somebody need to learn how to grow food. And this is another, let's see if I got another cool picture. This is some of our corn varieties coming in. They are all braiding corn outside. I have a large braiding contingent. I have a huge pile of corn. Hold on a second, watch this. Corn everywhere in my house. We have so much corn. That young woman there is braiding corn, but right now she went outside with my granddaughter, who's a little Cree girl from Moose Factory. And the picture in the middle is my horses being used by an Amish farmer to put in a cornfield. That's like the coolest thing I could ever imagine. I couldn't do quite what he does yet, but 4 horses, farming, I'm all learning, you know. So what I noticed is that we quarantined in our own community, and the only other people who really live in our community are the Amish people. And they have a really interesting set of economic practices, which I think the Anishinaabe should look at. You know, they are localized, everybody is specialized, a little different. You know, they're different than us, but they have some very good ideas about size, about technology, and choice of community. I think it's like a good idea. So I've been doing some farming and learning from the Amish farmers. And then here's another little discussion about hemp. So this is the other reason that I'm growing hemp, is because you can displace cotton, and you know, everything I'm wearing today is either cotton or made of fossil fuels, and we just need to be done with that. We just need to move on into some kind of economy that is reaffirming and restorative. That is through rematriating our seeds. That is through you know, recovery of all of the gifts that were, you know, given to us, and that is through rebuilding our communities and our community food systems. And you know, that practice is something that is going on nationally and internationally, because on a worldwide scale, you know, Indigenous people have always used far more plants than industrial society. And so what we find is that, you know, as Syngenta and Monsanto, you know, start closing in on feedstocks and food stocks, they're diminishing the biodiversity of their different, you know, varieties. And, you know, anybody who has a little bit of history knowledge knows that what you need in life is agrobiodiversity, not a monoculture. Actually, what you need in life is diversity and not a monoculture, because that is how, that is what life is. Life is this diversity. And so, you know, they say on a worldwide scale, about 70% of the food that is produced today is produced by peasant farmers and Indigenous farmers, not produced by the big food companies, Kraft, I don't know, Smithfield Foods. The majority of the food is actually produced by people like us. And that's what we're gonna want for the future. To keep farming and in those and growing out our food. I think about that because our ancestors, they didn't have a Walmart, didn't have a Costco. They just had that, you know. And you know, they say that that our generation suffers from something called affluenza. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. Affluenza means just, you know, we somehow we got people growing for us, making our clothes, providing us heat, you know, and we've become entirely less capable as a consequence. And so the decolonization process of kind of like letting go of the entitlement of a fossil fuels economy that is collapsing, the decolonization is found in your garden. The decolonization is found in your foods. There's a really, there's a proverb from Mexico. You can see it. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. I think of seeds as a promise. I think of seeds as resilience. I think of seeds as, you know, our future. And even, you know, here, I don't know, I assume that you guys are all parching and harvesting your wild rice up there now. Is that right? Are you guys ricing there too? You know, that's always been our big crop. And this year there is good rice in a lot of places, tough in some places, but, you know, I see my, I see that this is one of our traditional parching systems, but we have larger operations that are parching, you know, like mills, and we got a lot of rice coming in right now, and Anishinaabe people, as you know, that rice is our life, and so we are working really hard to get our harvest in and to get it parched, and to protect our rice. So, you know, I want to wish everybody the best up there, and I'm happy to discuss and go into a lot of detail in some of these, but I just want to thank you all, you know, for your time here, and I'm happy to share some of my farming strategies. And, you know, in this time that we are in, we have this opportunity to change the world. I mean, the fact is that there is crisis everywhere. There's ecological crisis, there is political crisis, there is social crisis, there is economic crisis. So in a time of crisis, don't hang on to that stuff. You don't want it. What you want to do is walk through that portal into that next world, light that 8th fire, make that good life, you know, that is for us, and work to make that possible. This is our opportunity, you know, as statues fall, as idols tumble, you know, as Exxon is no longer one of the world's most, you know, powerful corporations, and the tar sands economy is crumbling. Take the reins. Be coherent. Be coherent. In the times of panic, somebody's got to be coherent. And like us, you know, I was a little stressed out like everybody else, but you know what I did? I went to the garden. And I feel like my food security is good for this year. And my seeds are good for next. And that's a good start. So thank you again for your time. Happy to answer some questions.
Chimigwech Winona. Rachel, can you stop sharing the screen?
I can stop sharing.
Oh, sorry.
Look at that, stop sharing.
I wanted to tell a little story about the squash. In our first year of this project, actually, we invited an elder from Northern Manitoba named Audrey Logan, and she had one of your seeds and grew that squash and brought him here. And a person on our team, Charles Levko, they grew that squash to this year. Charles, are you able to share your screen, the picture of the squash that Erin Stevens, your wife, grew? And Roots did. Brad Bannon, who's been working at Roots to Harvest, grew those squash this year as well.
Good. So the squash grew up there, huh?
Yeah.
They're massive. They turned out really good this year.
Isn't it great? You know, I feel like a granny. I'm like, oh, my little squash. Oh, look how far you got. You know, I mean, we're all just, you know, that's the opportunity of this to help bring to life good things. That's so great. Now this year, the squash that you saw in abundance were the Lakota squash. It's like very similar. I have no idea why the Lakotas just like soared in production. And the Gitchi-Gami, not as good, but I think, you know, a little bit at the farms, but boy, good, you know, very good. Yes, someone asked if they could tour our farms. Of course, we're in what's known as Snellman, Minnesota, Osage, Minnesota. You know, if you're in Winnipeg or Thunder Bay, just message us. You know, winonashemp@gmail.com. Come take a look. A lot of people are coming to take a look. You know, we're far from perfect. We're learning as we go, my gosh. And then, you know, but it's also, we're growing out these food systems. So I'll give you examples. So I grow this cool food, right? Oh, I didn't go to show you my cool potatoes. So then you got to store the cool food. That takes different infrastructure, right? And so we're working on making sure we got, like, I store it all up in like squash likes it warm. And so I store it like kind of up in the rafters of my log home. That works good, right? Oh, look at the squash. Very good job. Very beautiful. You know, so get the storage. And then, you know, I was out in Idaho and I saw these potato storage systems. I don't know if you guys have seen these. Let me just show you this. I took some pictures out of there. I was like, oh my gosh. It was kind of like let me see if I can share this picture now. But the potato sellers were like super interesting. Can I share this again? If I hit the share screen?
I believe so.
Yep, you're still a co-host.
Ah! Here. You see, that doesn't look cool. That's like not cool inside, but let me show, there's a different one. It was so interesting to me. Yeah, can you see this? Oh, super interesting, these potato sellers. And what there were is just like, dang this one here. See these low buildings? And so it's like an underground storage unit. It's a root cellar. But you know what I'm saying is, like, if we want to get serious, about storing potatoes, you got to build something like that for your village, is what you got to build. Build these root cellars, you know, for your community. And then, you know, the other thing that we're working on is extending our season, because we're further south than you. So we got a pretty good season, but we put up some high tunnels. We fixed up one that was all run down. And then we're building this underground greenhouse with hemp. Next couple of weeks, no, in the next month, because we're in the rest of our harvest. But that underground greenhouse, that's because of climate change. And because you're more likely, you know, some of these things like your tomatoes are going to get a beating, you know, with a hailstorm. And so I keep thinking about like how you extend the season. And then the other thing I've done a lot of work on, which I think you all know about, is kind of documenting. I mean, you get people like, you get places like in Northwest Territories in Yellowknife where they build all those grow, like not like a grow box, but remember that they had to build topsoil there, right? And they didn't have any topsoil, and so they built it up with am I still screen sharing? Oh good, it paused, good. But they built it up with caribou hair. I thought that was so interesting, you know. So I was like, if they could grow a bunch of vegetables with caribou hair, I should be able to grow something, you know. And so what I'm saying is, like, use what you got, let her grow out, you know. You can find the greenhouse stuff online. I looked it up online, and then we're going to do this workshop on hempcrete building. And we're going to video that. You know, there'll probably be like 10 participants. We're not going for a large because of COVID. But, you know, I'm interested in hemp because I'm interested in building materials, and I'm interested in, so I'm starting with a greenhouse, underground greenhouse with hemp. To see, look, we're going to explore 3 different techniques: hempcrete brick, and hemp cob, with the intention of figuring out how to build local with the hemp crop without, you know, a lot of extra crazy stuff. So, you know, just continue to be resourceful. Oh, I see there's all these questions. Uh-oh. Is there supposed to be questions I'm answering?
Well, you know, I was just going to say thank you for mentioning about storage, because, you know, through COVID, we work with 34 remote communities, and we've recognized not that only like the communities close to us have storage issues, yep, but, you know, in the remote north, it's really problematic, and it's hard to find funding to support infrastructure to develop things like that. So thanks for mentioning that. We do have one question I wanted to ask that was on the Facebook. Sorry,
I can't hear you.
Oh, was I muted? Sorry. I'm sorry. Thanks, Winona. Very inspiring. I'm wondering if we could talk about your experience with developing these food sovereignty initiatives and how they have or haven't led to land-based livelihoods for people in your community and elsewhere.
Okay. So a couple of things. One is, don't wait for permission. 2 is, don't wait for government funding. I don't really know what else to say, but those 2 things will stop you dead in your tracks. So we don't got time for that. We don't got time to mess around. Start small. You know, I showed you this, you know, food cellar. You don't got to do a great big thing like everybody wants to do giant things. Don't do giant things. Do something that you can manage, learn how to use it, and then grow it out from there. That way you could have extended family food sovereignty. Got to start somewhere, you know? And a lot of that stuff, just a backhoe or a bobcat, some determination. You know, I think that we got, you know, I mean, I think that a lot of our communities got we got paralyzed. That's an understatement. But more than that, you know, it's like, did the government give you the money to do it? Don't wait. You know, it's kind of like, I always like what one chief told me a long time ago. He said, talking to the Canadian government is a lot like sitting around and talking to a cannibal. You know, you can make as much small talk as you want, but in the end, you know exactly what they want. You know, don't ask a cannibal to give you a food system. You know, get your own food system. You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And so I'm like, you see me, I'm super, you know, persistent. And, you know, so we started with, you know, my master's thesis in the 80s, last century, was on the traditional economy of white earth. Because what I was observing is that they kept training and retraining people in my community for jobs that didn't exist. And then, you know, we had this rising level of poverty and a lack of valuation of traditional economics, right? And so my interest in my community was really in making sure that we could rice. Our rice is protected, that more people riced. They didn't just sell it for making money because that's a super important way to make money, but also they ate it. So this year more than ever, people are gardening, you know, that there's been a rush on seeds, and people are also, you know, keeping their food. They're keeping their wild rice, their monoman, you know, and eating it up here. And so, you know, I wanted to document that. I found that like maybe half our people live like 30%, 40% subsistence economy still. We got wild rice, we got fish. We don't have any moose left. You know, I think we should all go to Isle Royale and collect some moose this year because they look like they need some help. Go put some prayers out and get some moose. That's what I'd say, you know. But we eat pretty good, you know, here. And so I wanted to restore and strengthen and value that, you know, because the lack of valuation of a traditional economy is how, you know, Wendigo economics make up job ideas for your community that you don't need. What you need is your food. What you need is self-reliance. What you need is to not have to supply fossil fuels for your, you know, for your heat. What you need is heat security, you know, solar, you know, renewable energy security, all of those things. So I started on documenting it, very wealthy economy. And then, you know, from there, we started working on land restoration, land back movement in the 80s on White Earth. We got like over time, 1,400 acres of land returned to us, you know, which we bought, which people donated, which, you know, all kinds of things we went through to get that land back. And then, you know, we started growing from it. And so we just moved into, you know, building food systems, and those food systems are still growing on White Earth, you know, now they need to flourish. Now they need to flourish. And so it's not also, on one hand, like, I'll find a picture of our potato boxes. That was a really interesting thing. I planted these potato boxes. And so I'll show you this picture of this potato box. I don't know if I got a picture of mine. Let me see, I might be able to share this again. Yeah. Oh, here's a video of it. We don't want to watch the guy's video, huh? Oh, shit. How do you do that? Geez, you get going on it, and then pretty soon there's a Pandora's box there. But the point of this potato box planter is image, no video, please, thank you. Super interesting thing that happened. And what I found, this is a really good example of it. Now, how do I share it again? Can you share my screen, team, without me doing it?
So the share screen is just at the bottom, the green.
Oh, okay, so just go back and share it myself. I have to do that, okay. Share screen, crepes. Here we go. There, can you see it?
Yes.
See how interesting that is? Now, I did that this year, and this potato box, you could get about 60 or 70 pounds of potatoes out of it. Now, why is that important? Because you could put that in your housing projects. You could put one of those outside of every house, and if you put 3 outside of a house, 4 outside of a house, you know, each of those plants grows potatoes. You keep adding more soil to it, and then it gets more potatoes. You could supply a family without them having to have a garden. You know, and so I'm really interested in local food that gives people back their power, taking some things like, who does not want Opening? Who is not going to eat potatoes? There's not a single Ojibwe that's not going to eat those potatoes, you know? And so I've been thinking about that. And, you know, in particular, I've been raising purple potatoes because I like purple potatoes. And if you're going to raise potatoes, might as well raise purple ones if you want them. They're like higher in antioxidants and stuff, so they're super cool. But then I also thought it was really cool that this guy, Chiron Smith, he was like an ethnologist who studied the Ojibways in the like turn of the century, and he reported the purple potatoes of the Ojibways. So I was like, I'm gonna grow purple potatoes. My ancestors grew purple potatoes. You know, so I'm thinking about that, and I'm saying make it accessible, help coach people, because you don't want to be growing all their food for them. You want everybody to take back their food. You know, so something easy like potatoes, those are easy things to grow, given this thing, you know. Figure out some way, little small grants even. Go make 20 of these, 50 of these boxes for your village. You know, that's what we did. We did 25. I had great success with mine. You know, I'll do some scientific study about how many potatoes I got out of each one, but I'm saying there's a lot of ways to get more food sovereignty, you know. Okay, now I'm turning off that stop share, but yeah. Okay, so I don't know, I'm starting to ramble here, but I'm talking about potatoes.
We all love potatoes. I guess
Right.
another question, how can we nurture these skills in youth that have been disconnected from ancestral knowledge?
The only way through is farming. You know, I mean, small city farming, you know, restoration. I mean, it's interesting. Did I mention like 3 or 4 times I quarantined with a bunch of high school students? Middle school, high school. I mean, you know, nobody's going to school. I don't want them going to school. That's scary. And so it's this opportunity to do the new survival school. Remember those? They were like the 80s, 90s. And then we got all caught up in the system and we had to do all this stuff. Well, decolonization is not going to be given to you by Canada or the United States school systems. If you want to decolonize and talk about opportunities, since we're all quarantined, start farming, you know, just expand things, you know, and then just learn your garden. I mean, you know, they talk about our great world. The Creator gave us gardens, you know, and so we walk around out there, trudge around looking for, you know, all kind of things. It's super interesting. Like last year was really wet season. So what did I get in so many of? Mushrooms, you know, wasn't expecting it, but they grew in my horse pasture. So many mushrooms, you know, so that the Creator and the natural world, biodiversity gives you different opportunities in different moments. And what we have to do is be attuned, because industrial Windigo farming, you know, they talk about that as conventional farming. That's not conventional farming. That's an aberration of 10,000 years of agriculture with a bunch of equipment and technology that doesn't work, you know? And, you know, so in that big model, they can't change. They can't shift, but we can change and shift because we're small. And what you want to do is exactly that, be small. And in that, you get to learn things. And so, you know, teach your children, everybody just go out there in the woods, you know, just start figuring out what's growing now and why it's better this year than last year. Super interesting, like great year for berries. Great year for berries. You know, not so, you know, the raspberries were really good. Apples seem very good too. You know, so I just think it's super interesting, like what the Creator provides us in which different weather conditions. And, you know, not only with climate change, but our ancestors spent a lot of time watching weather. We took it for granted because we had industrial food. We don't have it. You know, the future is not going to have that, and you don't want it. What you want to do is to, you know, is to have your reconnection and be smart and pray hard.
Thank you. I guess we're asking if anyone else has any questions. I will just ask, there was a few questions for the communities. Joanna and the communities, are you on still? One of the questions, Joanna, was for Red Rock Indian Band and asked if your moose hanger was made of steel beams and how was it fabricated? Joanna, you there?
Hi, yeah, it was fabricated out of stainless steel from a company in Thunder Bay.
Thanks. Oh yeah, and they also asked if you had large freezer space, and maybe you could just speak a little bit about what your plans are.
Yeah, inside the butcher shop, we did apply for funding that we incorporated freezer space and cooler space and like a track system where we could hang like the quarters and even like band saws and meat grinders. That's all going to be incorporated in the butcher shop.
Amazing, thank you. Another question hold on, sorry, I'm just trying to read. We have a Google Sheet going on. from Carrie Dallas, and was asking the 3 First Nations if you guys have done readiness assessments. So I guess that is something that the Ontario Ministry.
Heard them before, but we're happy to take a look and see how they can assist with the process.
I guess, and then I don't know if I'm just seeing, sorry, it's hard to read questions. Oh yeah, and to the communities, people are wondering if your slide decks will be available and if you can, if we can provide contacts for you. Was that something we can do?
Sure, no problem for me, Joanna.
So another question here, I'm just trying to read, is, oh, I can't see it, is has there been any attempt for wild permaculture in the communities? If so, what has been the successes? And whoever, Natalie is interested in medicines. And maybe Winona, you would know of that kind of work that was going on around your area as well.
Jess, you're muted.
Sorry. I know that in Gitchi-Gami, you guys are in the process of replanting wild rice that grew on the shores of Lake Superior. So projects like that, would anyone else, or Winona, do you know of any other projects like that going on in Anishinaabe country?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I know that there's been a lot of wild rice restoration, and I know a lot of it has to do with water levels, and I know that rice comes back. So we had 2 lakes south of us. One was called Onamia Lake, and the other one Omimi Lake. Those lakes, because of the cottagers, I guess that's what you would call them in Canada, they had raised the water levels and drowned the rice, the monoman. One lake 17 years and another lake 50 years. And 50 years later, when the water levels went down, the rice returned. So give it to the creator on that one. My point is that you know, you create the right conditions, life wants to be here. So take care of your rice, pray hard, and do our best to restore it. You know, and the other thing I want to say is, you know, I'm hoping that you know, we think about some places we need to clean up, and hemp is a good thing for bioremediation. And I think that should be one of the big initiatives that you know, should be supported in Indigenous nations, is also, you know, integrating these plants into restoration of healthy ecosystems.
Amazing. Yeah. Here too, we've run into those problems in Southern Ontario. There's a wild rice harvester, James Wheaton, who similar with the cottagers there. I believe the cottagers wrote a letter to our Prime Minister complaining about him, and he just went out and planted more rice. So touche to James Wheaton. Anyways, I guess is there any more final questions? We wanted to thank Winona so much for taking part today. You know, we ideally would have loved to be in person, but you know, this is just as good. And you know, Shelby and I are just ecstatic right now with the amount of people and the response that we've had. So Chi-miigwech Winona, thanks so much for your work, and we hope to visit you one day. You're muted.
Miigwech, for allowing me to be with all of you, and my heart is up there, you know, to support you. Let's grow our food together. Let's grow our food together. Miigwech.
Miigwech. So I guess just in closing, thank you so much for listening and asking questions and taking part. I know it's not easy to sit on a Zoom, and we're going to end early. But we did want to close with our elder, Jerry Martin, who has been super integral to our work here. Thank you, Jerry, for wanting to be with us and give us some words of closing right now. To you, Jer.
Miigwech. Thank you everyone for your participation. It's very encouraging. About 15, 20 years ago with the National Health Organization in Canada, I sat at the elders table with the traditional people, and that was one of the concerns we had identified with our communities, was that the young people were losing interest in how to grow things. Community gardens, food for themselves, and just how things grew. They had become too dependent on grocery stores and the food system to prepare it for them. Like you said, affluenza, being very affluent and wanting, not taking any interest in it. The flip side of it, our isolated communities were shielded somewhat from that because food being so expensive in the northern stores and the Hudson Bay stores, they had to still go out and fish, snare rabbits and birds and stuff. And so they were sent along with their grandparents and parents to participate in those activities. Some got it, some didn't. But with mine was the gardening, because I grew up in a gardening family, we were concerned. And I'm really encouraged by the number of young people that are showing up year after year in our gardens at the Roots to Harvest and wanting to know about the medicine gardens and stuff like that. It takes time. And I think we've got a really good core group of young people. More and more each year show up. And they participate. I'm really glad to see that our First Nation communities are doing their community gardens again. They keep expanding on it and growing it. So that is good. I'm going to try those potato boxes. I like that idea. I don't like cutting grass anyway, so I'm just going to make more boxes. And I think, I don't know if it was we did it at Roots to Harvest at their kitchen. We got to do more about cooking our food, how to cook our food, which is good. I mean, they made jams. In some of the community ones I see, I'm glad to see they're cleaning fish, hopefully cooking them. And I'm curious about Winona, if you grew the sweet potato and yam, as opposed to just the white potato?
No, I didn't grow sweet potato, but I grew 16 varieties of cool potatoes. All colors, no sweet potatoes. I think you got to be warmer. And so I'm going to try next year to grow those like inside tires or something that's extra insulation. I don't know if somebody's probably done that because I love them sweet potatoes, but I didn't grow them.
Okay, I'm going to try that. So I think that by the questions and the participation, a lot of people's hearts and minds and spirits were involved with this process and sharing the knowledge and attaining knowledge and getting dirt under your fingernails this summer and getting smelly hands of fish, cleaning fish. Jane can tell you about that, but it's something we grew up with. So enjoy your food that you grow. It's empowering, very empowering to know you grew that. From our young people at the volunteer pool, that transition of learning how to coexist with bees. And then a young guy running across the field with 2 or 3 bees chasing him. They weren't stinging him, they were just flying around with him. He's running like heck and they're keeping right up with him. The bees are probably trying to find out what's up, like, what are you doing? And that's one of the relationships that we have to regain is with Amu and the other creatures in the forest. They're not our enemies. They're our brothers and sisters in creation. They were here before before we came along. And so we learn from them. We look at them as our brothers and sisters in creation, not the enemy, like monsoon and these big corporations would have you do. Clear out the land, kill off all the unnecessary wildlife and insects and plant life. That's wrong. And for what? Just the more profit? So continue the good work, your interest. Start thinking about what you want to do next spring for planting and what kind of garden you want to grow. Just try one thing new, exotic. Don't try to grow everything. We will not grow palm trees up here unless it gets really warm again. The underground things, all the root crops, we can pretty well grow them safely. And think about what goes good with moose, and caribou, and deer, and fish, right? And wabus. So continue the good work. Pat yourself on the back if you had some success with your garden. And learn, continue to learn. But don't rely on the Northern Store and those big corporation stores. They're killing us with their kindness for profit. Miigwech, miigwech, pamapi.
Miigwech, Jerry, thank you. With all of the elders, we will wrap back around with you in the next couple days and come and visit. And we just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to our partners, the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, for supporting and funding this project for the last 3 years. Without you and without the Ontario Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, this wouldn't be possible. Although I do agree with Winona in that a small bit of money goes a long way, and we know that through this project. And I wish the communities the best of luck, and I can't wait to work with you more over the next 5 years and see where you're at in 5 years. Anyways, Shelby, do you want to say?
Yeah, miigwech, it was great to hear from everybody, and seeing where we were, where we are now, and where we could be in the future. It just gives me so much passion and drive to just keep on getting my hands dirty in the ground. And that's when I'm most happiest, is in the land, like doing stuff with my hands. Miigwech, everybody.
So thank you. Have a great day. You get out early. Maybe my team would stay. Bye, Jean. You're on mute. Veronica. Oh, yeah.
Miigwech. I think you're gonna make a farmer out of me yet.
I just don't want you to grow sausages. I need to hear that story one more time eventually, because I think every time I hear it, it changes my thought process.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Jane.
All right.
Thanks.